Cubism, a revolutionary art movement that emerged in the early 20th century, fundamentally transformed how we perceive and represent reality. In this video, we will learn about Cubism and look at paintings by key Cubist artists. Pioneered by artists such as Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque, this style breaks away from traditional perspectives, presenting subjects from multiple viewpoints simultaneously. Imagine a still life of a guitar, not just seen from one angle but fragmented into geometric shapes and reassembled on the canvas, allowing the viewer to experience the object in a more complex, holistic way. This approach challenges the notion of a single, objective reality, emphasizing instead the subjective experience of the observer. Cubism can be categorized into two phases: Analytic Cubism, which focuses on deconstructing forms into muted colors and intricate planes, and Synthetic Cubism, which introduces brighter colors and mixed media, incorporating elements from everyday life. Through this innovative lens, Cubism invites us to reconsider the very essence of perception, art, and reality itself. Girl with a Mandolin is an oil painting created by Pablo Picasso in 1910 during his Cubist period. This work is an iconic example of analytical cubism, a style Picasso co-founded with Georges Braque, characterized by the fragmentation of objects into geometric forms and a muted color palette, focusing on earth tones and grays. Description of the painting. The painting portrays a young woman holding a mandolin, rendered in a complex network of intersecting planes and angles. Unlike traditional portraiture, where figures are depicted in a lifelike manner, Picasso deconstructs the human form into fragmented shapes and perspectives. The woman's figure, as well as the mandolin, is almost abstracted to the point of dissolution, yet there are still enough visual cues to recognize the figure's feminine form and the musical instrument. The figure's body appears to be constructed from overlapping facets, with her head turned slightly to the side and her hand resting on the instrument. The fragmented planes suggest depth and volume, while the muted palette emphasizes the subtle contrasts of light and shadow within the geometric forms. Despite the abstraction, the painting evokes a sense of softness and elegance, especially in the depiction of the woman's face, which retains a hint of delicate features amid the angular lines. Artistic significance. Girl with a Mandolin is significant in its exploration of the relationship between form and space. Picasso sought to represent multiple viewpoints simultaneously, breaking away from the single perspective traditionally used in Western art. By fracturing the subject into geometric planes, he captured the essence of movement and time. Man on a Balcony, 1912, is a painting by Albert Gleizes, a prominent figure in the Cubist movement. The work is considered one of Gleizes' most famous contributions to Cubism and reflects the movement's emphasis on breaking down objects into geometric forms, deconstructing perspective, and challenging the traditional rules of representation. Man on a Balcony depicts a man standing on a balcony, likely overlooking a cityscape, though the subject matter is not immediately clear due to the fragmented and abstract style of Cubism. The figure of the man, the railing, and parts of the background are all disassembled into geometric shapes and planes. The color palette consists primarily of muted tones, with shades of brown, gray, and beige dominating the canvas. Gleizes uses overlapping and intersecting planes to suggest depth, movement, and the complex interaction of forms, typical of analytical cubism. This painting is an exploration of how the human figure and its surroundings can be deconstructed and presented simultaneously from multiple perspectives. The fragmentation of the form represents a departure from traditional representation and evokes a sense of dynamism and modernity. While the man on the balcony is identifiable, Gleizes makes the viewer work to assemble the image in their mind, engaging them actively in the process of interpretation. The work embodies the avant-garde experimentation of the early 20th century and reflects the era's interest in depicting the complexities of perception. Man on a Balcony was featured in the groundbreaking 1912 Salon d'Automne in Paris, where Cubism's influence became widely recognized. Gleizes' painting is emblematic of the Cubist movement's revolutionary approach to art, focusing on abstraction, structure, and the visual analysis of subjects. This work, alongside pieces by Picasso, Braque, and others, contributed to the development of modern art by challenging conventional representation and opening the door to further abstraction in art. The most extreme forms of Cubism were not those practiced by Picasso and Braque, who resisted total abstraction. Beginning in 1912, Delaunay painted a series of paintings entitled Simultaneous Windows, followed by a series entitled Formes Circulaires, in which he combined planar structures with bright prismatic hues. Based on the optical characteristics of juxtaposed colors, his departure from reality in the depiction of imagery was quasi-complete. The juxtaposition of shapes and colors in this piece provide the viewer with an abstract interpretation of something one would see out a window. Soldier at a Chess Game is a painting by the French artist Jean Metzinger, completed around 1914 during the height of the Cubist movement. Metzinger, along with Albert Glizes, was one of the leading proponents of Cubism, particularly section d'or Cubism, a branch of the movement that emphasized mathematical proportions and geometric forms. Soldier at a Chess Game exemplifies his approach to blending Cubism with elements of classical representation, creating an artwork that is both fragmented and reflective of everyday life. Soldier at a Chess Game portrays a scene of a soldier engrossed in a chess match, although the subject is abstracted and deconstructed according to the principles of Cubism. The painting is composed of intersecting planes and angular forms, with the figure of the soldier and the chessboard fragmented into geometric shapes. Metzinger uses a muted color palette dominated by shades of gray, brown, and green, giving the piece a somewhat somber and reflective tone. Despite the abstraction, there are recognizable features in the painting, such as the soldier's helmet, his uniform, and parts of the chessboard and pieces. The fractured forms invite the viewer to piece together the scene mentally, engaging with the composition as an intellectual puzzle, much like the chess game itself. The painting can be seen as a meditation on the tension between war and strategy, as chess, a game of calculated moves and forethought, serves as a metaphor for military tactics. The soldier's thoughtful engagement with the chess game also hints at a moment of reprieve amidst the chaos of war, suggesting a psychological escape into a cerebral world of logic and strategy. Created during World War I, Soldier at a Chess Game can be interpreted as reflecting the broader societal concerns of the time. The war had a profound impact on the art and culture of Europe, and many artists, including Metzinger, grappled with its consequences in their work. The soldier's introspective demeanor and the painting's fragmented, chaotic composition evoke the disorientation and uncertainty of wartime. Metzinger, like many Cubists, was interested in how time, space, and perspective could be represented simultaneously in a single artwork. Soldier at a Chess Game exemplifies this concern by presenting multiple viewpoints and moments in time within a single, static image. The soldier is seen from various angles at once, creating a sense of movement and depth that challenges traditional modes of representation. Metzinger was a key figure in what is sometimes called crystal cubism, a later phase of cubism that focused on clarity and the careful construction of forms. In Soldier at a Chess Game, his use of sharp, crystalline shapes and his attention to the spatial relationships between forms are characteristic of this style. While the painting is abstract, it retains a certain level of figurative representation, balancing between pure abstraction and a recognizable subject. Soldier at a Chess Game is a reflection of Metzinger's mastery of Cubism and his ability to infuse the movement's abstract forms with emotional depth and historical relevance. The painting stands as an example of how Cubism could be used not only to explore formal artistic concerns, but also to engage with contemporary events and ideas. As one of the pioneering Cubists, Metzinger's work had a lasting impact on the development of modern art, influencing later movements such as Futurism and Constructivism. The painting remains a significant piece within the Cubist canon, emblematic of the period's revolutionary approach to art and its engagement with the cultural and intellectual climate of early 20th century Europe. Portrait de Messrs Kashima et Fujita by Diego Rivera is a fascinating painting that showcases Rivera's versatility as an artist and his engagement with international artistic circles. Painted around 1914 during Rivera's time in Europe, this portrait highlights Rivera's connection with two prominent Japanese artists living in Paris, Sugawara Fujita and Kawashima Richiro. During this period, Rivera was deeply influenced by Cubism, a movement he explored while in Paris alongside major artists like Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque. This painting reflects Rivera's experimentation with Cubist principles, as well as his unique interpretation of the style. In this work, he combines both portraiture and elements of Cubist abstraction, giving it a modern and avant-garde feel. The figures of Fujita and Kashima are rendered in geometric shapes, with a flattening of perspective typical of Cubism, yet Rivera retains a sense of individual identity in the portrayal of his subjects. Suguru Fujita was a well-known Japanese artist in the École de Paris, celebrated for blending Eastern and Western techniques in his paintings. Kawashima Riichiro, although less known internationally, was another artist from Japan who, like Fujita, was engaged with the avant-garde movements of early 20th century Paris. By painting these two artists, Rivera demonstrated his respect and admiration for the global artistic community of which he was a part. The painting reflects the cosmopolitan environment of Paris at the time, where artists from around the world gathered, exchanged ideas, and influenced one another. The muted, earthy tones of the painting, combined with the fractured forms of Cubism, give the work a subtle, introspective mood. The angularity and stylization of the figures evoke the experimentation with form that defined Rivera's work during this phase of his career. At the same time, Rivera's portrayal of these figures emphasizes their intellectual and artistic presence. Portrait de Messrs Kawashima et Fujita stands as a testament to Diego Rivera's engagement with modernist movements beyond his Mexican roots and his ability to incorporate global influences into his art. It also represents an interesting convergence of cultures, Japanese artists, portrayed by a Mexican artist in Paris, all within the framework of Cubism. Portrait of Picasso is a celebrated 1912 painting by Juan Gris, a prominent figure in the Cubist movement and a contemporary of Pablo Picasso. Unlike Picasso and Braque, who pioneered the early stages of Cubism, Gris introduced a more structured and decorative approach to the movement, often employing bright colors and a sense of order in his compositions. This portrait of Picasso, one of his most famous works, represents both an homage to the artist and a display of Gris' unique interpretation of Cubism. The portrait of Picasso depicts the legendary artist, but like most Cubist works, it is far from a traditional likeness. Instead of a realistic depiction, Picasso's features and surroundings are broken down into geometric shapes, flat planes, and fragmented forms. The portrait includes overlapping facets that create a sense of depth and complexity, with multiple viewpoints presented simultaneously. Gris uses a muted color palette of grays, browns, and blacks, punctuated by occasional splashes of brighter colors, such as blue and yellow, to create visual interest. Picasso's face is abstracted into angular forms, and recognizable elements like his eyes, nose, and mouth are presented in fractured yet identifiable shapes. His head and shoulders are positioned in a three-quarter view, which is typical of traditional portraiture, but the Cubist approach transforms this into a dynamic and multifaceted image. Gris' portrait of Picasso is both a tribute and a reimagining of his fellow artist. Picasso, already a leading figure in modern art by this time, was an important influence on Gris. By portraying Picasso using the language of Cubism, Gris acknowledges Picasso's role in shaping the movement while asserting his own distinct voice within it. Unlike the more austere and monochromatic Cubism of Picasso and Braque, Gris brings a sense of clarity and structure to his portrait. The fragmented forms, though abstract, are more refined and organized, reflecting Gris' tendency toward precision and harmony. Gris was known for his methodical approach to Cubism, often infusing it with a more lyrical and decorative quality. This painting exemplifies his ability to balance abstraction with a degree of recognizable form. The subject matter itself, Picasso, adds an additional layer of meaning. By painting a portrait of the artist who revolutionized modern art, Gris contributes to the dialogue surrounding Cubism and its impact. The work can be seen as a reflection on the role of the artist in modern society, as well as an exploration of the complex relationship between art, identity, and representation. Gris was often described as a more classical Cubist, in contrast to the more experimental and fragmented work of Picasso and Braque. His paintings are typically more colorful, with a greater emphasis on clarity of form and a decorative sensibility. In Portrait of Picasso, Gris uses sharp edges, clear lines, and a balanced composition, giving the work a sense of order and coherence, even within the fragmented cubist style. This painting also demonstrates Gris' use of synthetic cubism, a later phase of cubism that focuses on the construction of objects using simpler shapes and brighter colors, rather than the dissection and analysis of form seen in analytical cubism. Portrait of Picasso is an example of Gris' skill in synthesizing different elements to create a unified and harmonious composition. Portrait of Picasso is an important work in Juan Gris' oeuvre and within the broader context of Cubism. It showcases his ability to blend abstraction with a sense of structure and order, distinguishing him from his contemporaries. The painting serves as a testament to the close relationship between Gris and Picasso, both personally and artistically, and highlights the dialogue between the two artists regarding the development of modern art. Gris' contributions to Cubism, including works like Portrait of Picasso, helped to shape the trajectory of modern art by demonstrating that Cubism could be both intellectually rigorous and visually appealing. His approach influenced later artists and movements, and his legacy endures as one of the key figures who brought clarity and vibrancy to the abstract language of Cubism. The Smokers, Les Fumeurs, by Fernand Léger, completed in 1911-12, is an emblematic painting that reflects Léger's unique interpretation of Cubism, which he often referred to as tubism due to his use of cylindrical forms. Léger's style diverged from the more fragmented and intricate forms of Cubism seen in the works of Georges Braque and Pablo Picasso. Instead, he introduced bold, rounded shapes, and emphasized a machine-like aesthetic in his compositions. In The Smokers, Léger portrays a group of men smoking, yet the human figures are abstracted into a series of geometric forms that appear almost mechanical. The figures are composed of tubes, cylinders, and spheres, reflecting Léger's fascination with modernity, machinery, and industrialization. The rigid, almost robotic appearance of the figures captures the influence of the growing industrial age on art and society at the time. Léger employs a limited color palette in this work, focusing on strong contrasts between blacks, whites, and grays with some use of primary colors. The rhythmic repetition of shapes and patterns in the painting creates a sense of movement and energy, reminiscent of the dynamism found in machinery and factories. Unlike traditional Cubism, which often broke down objects into fractured, angular forms, Léger's The Smokers maintains a sense of solidity and volume. The human figures, despite their abstract forms, still convey a certain monumentality. This blend of human and machine-like forms makes the painting a compelling reflection on the relationship between man and technology in the early 20th century. The Smokers is an important work within Léger's oeuvre, representing his innovative approach to Cubism and his exploration of the aesthetic possibilities of the modern industrial world. It reflects his optimistic vision of technology as a force for progress and the ways in which modern life could be celebrated through art. Man with a Guitar by Georges Braque is an influential painting that represents Braque's pivotal role in the development of Cubism, a movement he co-founded with Pablo Picasso. Completed in 1911, this work is a prime example of analytical cubism, the early phase of the movement which focused on breaking down objects into geometric shapes and fragments, often rendering them from multiple perspectives simultaneously. In Man with a Guitar, Braque depicts a man playing a guitar, but the figure and the instrument are highly abstracted. The painting is almost monochromatic, dominated by muted browns, grays, and ochres, which allow the focus to remain on the form and structure rather than color. Braque reduces the subject to a series of interlocking planes and overlapping geometric shapes, deconstructing traditional notions of depth and perspective. What makes the painting notable is the way Braque fragments the human figure and the guitar, blending them together in a way that challenges the viewer's perception. The distinction between figure and background is blurred, and instead of focusing on a single viewpoint, Braque presents multiple perspectives within a single composition. This approach was revolutionary at the time and exemplified the Cubist interest in exploring different ways of seeing. Man with a Guitar embodies the shift from representational art to more abstract forms, where the emphasis is placed on the experience of looking and perceiving rather than merely depicting objects as they appear. It is considered one of Braque's masterpieces and a key work in the evolution of modern art. Learn more about Cubism with the Cubism Coloring Book. Learn about Cubism while you color. Cubism continues to inspire new generations of artists to experiment with composition, shapes, rhythm, and an abstract aesthetic. Cubism-inspired coloring pages provide a unique opportunity to experience one of the most influential art movement of the 20th century. By incorporating geometric forms, fragmentation, abstraction, and cubist-inspired color palettes, one is encouraged to express creativity while enjoying coloring as a hobby. The Cubism Coloring Book includes 25 line art, hand-drawn coloring pages, illustrated in the Cubist style. Color versions of each page are also included at the end of this book to provide inspiration for color palettes, color combos, and examples of completed coloring pages. Paintings are also included in the book by artists Pablo Picasso, Georges Braque, Paul Klee, Juan Gris, and Diego Rivera as examples of Cubism. Website links are also included for each artist. The Cubism Coloring Book is available on Amazon worldwide and in Anne's Etsy shop. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to be notified when more videos like this are released.